Hey, don't tell anyone this, but the Scout is pretty much the strongest class in TF2. He can pretty much beat any other class in a 1 versus 1 fight. Some exceptions, of course, but more often than not, you should have an advantage and win. Just stay away from sentries, or don't. I don't know. I haven't played Scout in a while, so this is not great, but you do a ton of damage and you're very difficult to hit. It's quite a combination. So, I was thinking I'm going to talk about some basic overall Scout strategies, some tips and trickseries to help you Scout better. I usually don't talk about basics in this game. Do I? I can't remember. I'm kind of assuming that people already know this stuff, but hey, let's try it, I guess. So as a Scout, you're really good at 3 things: help your teammates, flank enemies, and be annoying. So the first thing that I would say is that you want to back up your teammates mainly. So if you see a soldier, for example, running off on his own, follow that dude and help him out. A Scout is really good at picking off weak classes, so if a soldier does 100 damage to another Scout, all you have to do is 25, and it can be tough for the soldier to hit that last rocket that's needed. When it comes to flanking, you constantly want to jump around and look for an opening to get closer to your enemy without being noticed. But if you can't do that, then do not push forward and run away. A Scout is at a huge disadvantage if they see you coming, so good Scouts avoid more fights than they engage in. If you have the upper hand, you want to take 1 versus 1 fights as often as you can, because the more people that you have to face, the less effective you are as a Scout. So if you start finding yourself at a disadvantage, don't hesitate to run. Or if you hear a heavy right around the corner or something like that, already firing, just back away. And you always need to look around a lot. If you're caught off guard, most classes can easily kill you. Another thing that you want to do constantly as a Scout is to try and ding people at all times. Wherever they are, always shoot at them, unless you are trying to be sneaky, of course. And there's a few reasons why you want to do that. Most obvious one is that every now and then you'll actually kill someone running around with low HP. And you will also waste their health packs, meaning less health overall for their team. Also, a bonus benefit of that is that if they have a medic on the team and you are constantly hitting people, they will not be able to heal at their full rate. I think it's 10 seconds of not taking damage before the medic gets his crit heals. And lastly, if you are shooting people often, they will not put more attention on you and look in your direction, which makes it easier for your teammates to do whatever. Okay. Aiming is probably what most people want to get better at, but I would say that your movement is much more important. If your movement is good, then your aim doesn't have to be dead on. If you never get hit, you should eventually win. Of course, it doesn't hurt to be alright at both. Some mini tips to get better at moving when you're up against hit scan weapons. You don't always want to jump, keep the jumping to a minimum. Unpredictable jumps are good, but also hitting your shots is usually harder. It's a balance. But sometimes, if you're up close, you can use jumping to confuse your opponent. Also, do not forget to dodge forwards and backwards, especially against soldiers. If you're just going left and right, you're probably a fairly easy shot, but if you're also going towards and away from a soldier, it's a much tougher rocket to hit. Also, against soldiers you want to have the height advantage. If they have to fire upwards, they can't use the rocket splash to their advantage as much. So jump on every object that is around, even the tiniest ones. And lastly, you should try to air strafe as much as you can when you jump. A and D all over the place. When it comes to aiming, you want to track your target as much as you can. Keep your crosshair on him and adjust your aim if needed when taking your shot. Of course, when you're dodging around and air strafing and stuff, you can't do that perfectly, but in general, you want to track. I would not recommend strafe aiming where you use your movement a lot to help with your aim. You can do that if your target is unaware of you, but otherwise it makes you easier to hit. Okay, so here's something pretty useful to think about for every class really, regarding movement, and that is to throw off your timing pretty often so that you become harder to predict. So for example, in this clip I have a pretty strong suspicion that a soldier on the cart saw me run up these stairs. So as I reach the top here, I'm going to stop for a second, and I'm expecting that either he rocket jumps up here or he fires a rocket or two into the doorway, which is what he did. So if I had ran right out there, it would have been much more likely that the rocket had hit me. So that's something to keep in mind when you are facing people that kinda know what they're doing. So if you find yourself getting killed around corners a lot, that might be why. But of course, if your opponent is really good, they could also delay the timing of their rocket as well. And that's when people start accusing you of wall hacking. So try being as unpredictable as you can. For example, if you're really low on health, most people will take the safest way to a health pack. Maybe you should do the exact opposite. Okay, I guess that's all I can think of right now. There's a few things that I think are crappy about the scout. Once you get better at this class, it becomes very easy to kinda destroy everything, and the only real counters are sentries or a lot of spam or a very coordinated team. Every class except the soldier is fairly easy to take head on, and you can run straight into soldiers and the moment to make them take self-damage, which is a very effective tactic that I think is dumb. There's also a lot of unlocks for the scout that I don't understand why they exist. Unlocks that increase the scout's mobility by a lot, like the atomizer and the soda popper, I don't get. Scouts that can already dodge really well are very difficult to hit, so I don't get why you would make that even harder with a third jump, and not much of a downside either. That would be like letting the tankiest class in the game heal himself or something. Oh. Well, the soda popper is fun though, but you should at least take some extra damage or something when you use it. Winger and the fan are not quite that huge increase in mobility, but that should kinda be the limit, I think. Okay, that's the scoot. Bye.